And a full-grown man could very seldom stand upright in his own house. This man probably had servants. We know that some of them came to fetch the girl, slaves. One of them would probably have had some medical expertise. There would have been a couple of spare rooms other than this one living, sleeping kitchen room that everybody else had. And Jesus goes in with a girl and just with a mom and dad. But there were no beds. There were no couches except for festivals. People slept on the floor on mats. And if you were rich, there were a couple more mats. And they have found like a mud shelf built into a corner of a couple of houses in archaeological digs, and they suspect that that was actually a sleeping platform to keep anything but the most determined rats and vermin away from you. So I want you to see Jesus coming into this room and seeing this still body of this little child lying on the floor on the mat. And what is Jesus' body language? Oh, we've read about this kind of restoration recently in our Old Testament reading with Ezekiel. Son of man, say to these bones, rise up. Jesus had to get down on his hands and knees. Maybe he took that cold, limp little hand in his hand and patted it very, very gently, very, very lovingly. Little Bambi, wake up, wake up. I've got a $10 in my wallet at the moment. It's going to be my breakfast money for tomorrow when I stop along the 401 on my way to the airport. I will give anybody that $10 note if they can come up with anything in the life of Jesus more purely tender and loving and responsive and gentle and understanding and patient. Little Bambi, get up. She does. And Jesus, the carpenter, the practical one who comes into a situation and tears the wood apart and puts it together in a new way, recognizes her need and says, feed her. Go get some leftovers. Feed her quickly. And hopefully they do. The mission of the church has to include all these circles. We have to know that we are part of an enormous movement. That through millennia, God has been interacting with people in all kinds of languages, all kinds of cultures, all kinds of religious rituals, and coming to them in all kinds of names, some of whom you and I would not even be able to pronounce. I was saying to the seniors' lunch when I shared communion with them, one of the reasons that communion is important to me is that just within my own tiny little culture, the Christian culture, the communion lies like a cross across the landscape. It stretches right back through the Last Supper in that upper room, right through to God's liberation of the Hebrews out of Egypt. And all the symbols of shackles falling off, of slavery being some of the past. And that comes down to me and says, God is offering me the same thing. And then like the arms of the cross, traditionally, On a Sunday morning, Christians all around the world are focusing on someone who said, "This is my body, this is my blood, this is given for you, for you." And add your Bambi name in there. It's not for a movement, it's not for a historical reality. Add your own personal name in there. I have done this for you. I've joked with you in the past about how my mother was the only one who ever called me Peter, and it usually meant, uh-oh. Jock. You know, I really think that God calls me Jock and not Peter, and certainly not the Reverend Peter Tolnay. And this is for one of the big circles, so one of the important, one of the big envelopes in the congregation. And there is this tenderness. And the women, the unforgotten, unnamed, unknown women, you are also my daughter. For you also is all the tenderness and the caring of God. I am facing a new ministry. I haven't got the foggiest idea what it is and where it will be. I know it has to be different. I don't think God could put up with two Strathroys. And I hope the other person that comes here is different, because I don't think Strathroy could put up with two Jocks. One of the things that has to happen, whether it happens officially through an edict by the council or whether it just happens in our hearts spontaneously, is that in some way a new vision, a new statement of ministry has to be formulated. Who is this church that it wasn't 10 years ago? Remember when I held up the two directories and showed you how much just the face of the congregation has changed? And as you listen for the voice of God through art or through the interim minister when he or she comes, or through your long-term called minister, excuse me, after that, just give me a moment. There is this pilgrim voice from God that says, "Listen to me, because you have not been this way before. Listen to me, because you have not been this way before. But you know who you are. You know where you come from. You know what circle you are. And you know what tenderness means. And you know what selfishness means." Jairus was quite within his rights, within this culture, to say, well, if this little one's out of the way, there's room for one more son. And that's a good thing. I want you to hear, to listen, and to see where you hear the voice of Jesus in these two statements. Here's $1 million. I just want you around when I come back again. Or here's $1 million. Feed my lambs. Let us bring our gifts to God.